What's going on, guys? This is VinylicPuma, back with yet another Fallout 76 beta video, and today I figured I could talk about the beta for the PC version of the game. Now, in a lot of ways, there isn't really a whole lot to talk about here, since Fallout 76 is basically the same game across multiple platforms. So, a lot of the flaws with the game that I went over previously, like the more lacking aspects of the story, the lack of NPCs, and the sort of annoying and slightly spammy event missions, are still around. At the same time, I do think Bethesda did make some improvements from the Xbox One beta that have carried over to the PC version, and I figured we could talk about those as well as just some of the things that I liked and didn't like about the beta on PC in general. Starting off with what I don't like, and that is the Bethesda.net launcher. Between the bizarre countdown timer and the crazy glitches where people's preloads got deleted, I've got to say that the Fallout 76 beta got off to a pretty rough start for me, and based on Bethesda's decision to extend the beta on November 1st, it was likely an issue for plenty of other people as well. This whole issue with preloading makes me wonder about the Bethesda.net launcher's stability, and if there is a possibility that I could log in again at some point in the future and have all of my stuff get deleted. While I will admit the preload deletion thing didn't turn out to be that much of a big deal for me personally, as I have good internet and was able to re-download the game fairly quickly, it does suck for those that couldn't participate in the beta, and does kind of make me wish that the game could have been preloaded through Steam and simply used a Bethesda.net account for accessing the game. But I suppose it is what it is, and what's done is done. Also, and things could change for release, but I was kind of surprised by some of the frame rate dips that I experienced. Granted, I don't think it was nearly as bad as it was on the Xbox One, but based on my experience with the Xbox version and now the PC version of Fallout 76, it definitely does appear that this game does have difficulty in rendering certain objects, and you do get the occasional frame rate dips in certain areas. I noticed this in Flatwoods, which I think is that very first town that you go into, as well as the White Springs Resort in the outside area as you're about to enter in, as both of these areas did have some issues. I hope this is something the developers can fix, as it does seem to be some kind of technical issue with the game rather than something that's server-side. So I hope the developers can look into some of these areas and maybe hopefully figure out how to re-render some of them to hopefully improve performance somehow. Otherwise, I still encountered some bugs here and there, but in my experience, most of them were fairly minor. I think the biggest issue that I experienced with the entire PC beta yesterday was that weird preload deletion thing with Bethesda.net, and hopefully nothing like that happens again going forward. Despite the weird issues with the Bethesda.net launcher though, there are some things that I definitely liked about the PC beta. Specifically, the netcode, server ping, or whatever you call that happens between the game and the server seemed to be much better on PC than it was when I played in the Xbox beta. Before, it seemed like hit registration would take forever and potentially lag or cause stuttering, but during my experience with the PC beta, this really wasn't that much of an issue. Granted, the ping/netcode or whatever could also be better on the Xbox versions now, as Xbox users had to download like a 40 gig update to play in the beta yesterday, but it's nice to see some improvements here, especially since it was a noteworthy problem last week. The move from console to PC also yields the obvious improvements that we see from so many other PC versions of games, and Fallout 76 is no different. 60 FPS plus, scalable resolution, and better load times make the game run and play much better on PC than on console. And I would say if you own a PC as well as a PS4 and Xbox One, and you can stomach Bethesda.net, you should definitely get this game on PC if you intend to get it at all. Granted, I think it's dumb Bethesda didn't launch the game on Steam, and I hope Fallout 76 does eventually come to Steam at some point in the future, but other than that, I think the game plays and is simply just better on the PC. In fact, I would go as far to say that the PC version, based on my own experience, is the definitive version of the game at this point, and that's despite the fact that the PC version suffers from some occasional FPS drops that I mentioned earlier. At this point, I would have a very hard time going back to the console versions, as the PC version just plays and feels a lot more responsive. I also like some of the gameplay changes that have been made since last week. Maybe I was just comatose, unaware, or not cognizant of it during the Xbox beta, and this experience has happened to other people out there. But during my time with the PC version, I did encounter changing weather, which was kinda cool. Granted, I only think this happened once, but I did encounter a rad storm, and unlike Fallout 4, where rad storms are little to no threat to the player, it was nice to see it here in Fallout 76. And I also think it's a little more of a threat this time around, as you seem to gain rads at a higher rate overall, meaning you need to be a little more careful when rad storms appear. There also seem to be some nice enemy placement changes from the Xbox beta too. I definitely encountered a lot less Scorched in my time with the PC beta, which was something that I complained about in my original beta video. There also seemed to be a reduction in the number of pump-action shotgun-toting Scorched as well, which would often one-shot me during the Xbox beta, and the ones that appeared here seemed to be less of an issue, either because I had prepared for them, or because Bethesda tweaked something to make them a little bit less lethal. So I would say that that was a nice change too. So all in all, I think the beta is definitely better than it was last week, thanks to some of the changes it appears Bethesda have made, and the PC version as a whole seems to run pretty well on my system, despite the issues that I initially had with the Bethesda.net launcher. Aside from some of the improvements to Fallout 76, I think another noteworthy change to Fallout 76 was the introduction of the Adams microtransaction store. As far as I'm aware, this wasn't present in the Xbox One beta and may have been a part of the most recent beta update for the game. I suppose the upside to this thing's inclusion is that all items appear to be either cosmetic, emotes, etc., and I don't notice any weapons, XP boosts, or perk cards on sale here. There did appear to be some outfits available, and I didn't look at any to determine if they provided any kind of bonuses or not, but if I did have to take a guess, they probably don't. Though if you did find that they do, and you ended up purchasing something with Adams, feel free to share it with everyone in the comments section below. Ultimately, I just hope the Adams system sticks with cosmetics, as I definitely could see the potential for this system to allow players to buy perk cards and weapons. Hopefully that doesn't happen and Bethesda decides to keep this purely cosmetic only. Otherwise, if we did get into a situation where some of the better perk cards are locked behind the Adams system, I can definitely see people getting upset. At the end of the day, guys, I don't think there's really all that much else to be said about the beta at this point. We now have the game out on all three platforms, and I suppose to no one's surprise, the PC version is the best one available. After all, it's hard to beat 60 FPS, better load times, and the ability to render the game at a higher resolution than you could on a console. So I think if you are going to pick up Fallout 76 and you own a PC that can play most games pretty well, you're honestly probably better off picking up this game on Bethesda.net or just waiting for a potential Steam release at some point in the future. Otherwise, and like I said earlier, Fallout 76 is pretty much the same game, which will either be something you'll really like, hate, or some combination of the two. Personally, and I've said this a bunch of times already, I sort of like how the game plays, but I do sort of wonder about its replayability, especially once you reach the end game and you've completed the main quest. Maybe there is a lot to do after all of that, but I do have to admit that I kind of wonder. Now, while I haven't been as critical of the beta as I was when talking about the reception of the early released Fallout 76 gameplay, as well as the whole Brotherhood retcon controversy, I do think Fallout 76 does make me concerned about the future of Bethesda titles. I hope Fallout 76 doesn't wipe out Bethesda's single-player formula that's become an institution at this point, and while both Todd Howard and Pete Hines have said that future Bethesda titles won't have multiplayer, if Fallout 76 is incredibly successful, I think they would be hard-pressed not to include it. After all, if you look at something like Call of Duty, supply drops were included with Advanced Warfare and have become a staple of the series since, much to the chagrin of most legacy fans. My point is, business interests have a great effect on how games are made, and if Fallout 76 is proven to be more profitable or successful than Fallout 4 and Skyrim, multiplayer seems like it would become an inevitability in every future Bethesda Game Studios title. It sucks because on some level, I don't necessarily want Fallout 76 to fail, but does it need to fail so we could continue to have single-player Bethesda-style RPGs? And beyond that, is it naive to even think that when you consider that Skyrim paid mods failed only for the Creation Club to come and take its place? It almost makes you wonder if single-player Bethesda-style games are a thing of the past, and multiplayer is all we're going to be getting from now on. It's an uncomfortable thing to think about if you're a longtime fan of Bethesda game studios, and I think that idea has crossed a lot of fans' minds, and I think it definitely does contribute to the ensuing backlash that Fallout 76 has been and is currently getting. Hopefully there's a positive outcome to all of this, and we still get single-player Bethesda-style RPG experiences in the future, like Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout 3, or Fallout 4. I guess we'll see what happens, but as for right now, I think that's going to wrap up my thoughts on the Fallout 76 beta. I hope you all took away something from this video, and as always, feel free to leave a like, click the bell so you can be notified when I upload more videos, and as always, thank you all so much for supporting this channel. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.